Hello. I got this album, I can't actually remember when, but it's actually not secondhand, but it was a secondhand price. So this is Beck Hyperspace, which came out in 2019. And I remember when this came out. This came out very late in 2019. It was just in the period before I moved back to New Zealand and just before COVID. So I guess, yeah, November, December. It was kind of months before COVID happened. And I remember the first time I heard their first song off it, Hyper Life, and I quite liked it. And then I listened to bits and pieces of it over that year, but wasn't kind of blown away by it and didn't really give it much thought again. And then I saw a whole stack of them. Now, I can't remember exactly where this was. It was either at Real Groovy or Flying. I don't think it was Flying Out. I'm almost certain it was Real Groovy. There was like like a stack of like 5 to 10 of these albums that were shrink wrapped, brand new, and they were priced at like $5 max. Like I said, I can't remember the exact price, but and so I grabbed one, and I didn't listen to it a lot. I listened to the whole thing through once I bought it, but again, like I said, for whatever reason, it didn't really kind of capture anything in me, or I didn't really take much notice of it. Then I started listening to it again about a year ago, and I enjoyed it a lot more. And a lot of the songs kind of started to stand out to me. And then I had it in my car, which is a funny story, actually. I had it in my car recently. I've been listening to it kind of on repeat in my car for, I don't know, the last month or so. And then last Sunday night, some person broke into my car. The CD was sitting in there, or the CD was in the player, and the case was in the kind of the console area with another CD. And but they smashed the what do they call it? The quarter window. I don't know what's that. The little triangle window on the back door to gain access. And then they tried to start the car without the key, using whatever methods car thieves use. In doing so, they absolutely destroyed the whole ignition system. So the car is undrivable. Forked. But they didn't steal the CDs, which I'm not really surprised, because in 2026, who is the kind of person that's breaking into a car is not going to be looking to steal CDs, least of all a Beck CD. But they did completely bugger the car. The car's insured, so at the moment I don't have a car. But when I went the next morning, I went to get it in my car to go to work. I sat in it and went to kind of put my key, and I was like, that's not right. Why is my key not going into an ignition? And then I realized, it's gone. And then anyway, so I had to clear everything out of my car, and then a tow truck came and took my car, and it's in the process of being assessed for insurance as we speak. But the last month, listen to this, I've grown to really like this. I won't say love. There are songs on it that I do love, but there are parts on this that I don't like. And I think the issue with it is the production. Like overall, I'd say this is a good, solid album. I'd say this is like an 8 out of 10 album. An 8 out of 10 Beck album. If I think that Odelay is my favorite Beck album, which I think is a 10 out of 10 Beck album. Let's not say a 10 out of 10 classic album across all albums, because I've talked about this before. It's really hard to kind of judge things, within the context of all music. And so let's just say within Beck albums, I'd say Odelay is my favorite album, and I give that a 10 out of 10. Sea Change is my second favorite album. I give that a 10 out of 10, maybe a 9.5 out of 10. Now I'd say this is a good 8 out of 10 album. And now this could have been a 9 out of 10 album if some of the production elements were changed. and obviously this is just my personal taste, I think Beck does a lot better when he's more, uses rawer sound, more, what do I say, less processed sounds, more kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I can say organic. That's not really what I mean. It means that the sounds, he's in this, it's produced by Pharrell Williams from, what's he from? The Neptunes, and he seemed to be producing everything about 15, 20 years ago, didn't he? When did he first come out? Or NERD is his other project. He came out, I think NERD came out about the early 2000s. And then through the mid-2000s, his production seemed to be all over the place. On that Justin Timberlake album, he was apparently going to be producing Michael Jackson's, one of his comeback albums. He didn't, and instead used some of the stuff he used for that with the Justin Timberlake album, which you can rarely hear in some of the stuff. Especially in the Justin Timberlake song "Rock Your Body," in the bridge, like the middle 8 section. The first time I heard that, I was like, "Whoa, geez, that sounds like a Michael Jackson song." There's something about it. I think it sounds like a kind of earlier Michael Jackson, like off the wall Thriller era. Anyway, Pharrell Williams is producing this, and it has a kind of modern pop, maybe even hip hop production to some of the drum sounds that ruin some of the songs. Not ruin, that's maybe too strong. That make the songs less enjoyable than they could be. I can't stand the hi-hat sample that so many modern pop and hip hop producers use. I can't even do it. It sounds, I don't know, there's something about it. I can't even put my finger on why I can't stand it. As soon as it comes into a song, I've got to turn the song off almost. There's some other bits and pieces he does. It's hard to kind of call back exactly what the things I don't like are. But anyway, looking at the artwork, he's really kind of going for a 1980s vibe. We got hyperspace, written in katakana, and we got Beck standing in front of a Toyota, was it a Celica, a 1980s era. I don't actually know what year that would be, but it looks like an 84 or something like that, Toyota Celica. And there he is there, one eye showing. And there he is on the back. And I like the kind of color scheme here. The kind of it's almost like a like when you see those kind of movies from when there was the change from from black and white movies to color movies, and some of them have been colorized, or some of the older movies have been colorized in a kind of not strange, but it's obvious to see they've been colorized after the fact, and that sky reminds me of that colorized effect. And then the inside, we have the interior of the Toyota Celica, which kind of reminds me a lot of the old cars that I had when I was a teenager, of that similar vintage, the kind of early 80s. My first car I ever had was a 1981 Mitsubishi Mirage. And it had that same brown kind of color interior, everything kind of like that plastic vinyl. But they've taken away the Toyota and put hyperspace there. When this came out, when this car was first released, or what do you call it? Released, what's the word? Brought onto the market, I'm sure it was kind of state of the art. That especially that steering wheel design. But parts of this album, like when I said the first song I ever heard of this was Hyper Life, which is kind of almost like, it's not even really a song, it's almost like an introduction, and it's very kind of ethereal and dreamy, and kind of really got that it was about that time, the late 2010s, kind of 2015 through 2019, we kind of vaporwave was kind of becoming more well known and part of the mainstream, and then synthwave as well, and retro wave, all those waves. Basically, all of them share the commonality of kind of using very 80s synths and some 80s production to kind of give those things that real kind of nostalgic feel, which, to be honest, a lot of 80s music didn't use those sounds. The sounds almost taken, almost like, how would you describe that? It's like a lot of those things, like say like those, like synthwave, a lot of those synthwave songs and bands, it's almost like, okay, I want you to make a song with how you think the 1980s sounded. And the person you're asking is like 25. They were born in like the 90s. They never experienced the 80s. Their only experience of it is kind of through media and maybe representations in movies and TV, like Stranger Things or something like that. And then you see the same thing with the pictures. Like that was another big thing about five to kind of 10 years ago. On social media, people would kind of make these digitally produced pictures of like a 1980s bedroom, and you always knew that the person making them wasn't alive in the 1980s, because they would mishmash everything from like 1979 through to 1991 all together. So they would have like a Ghostbusters poster with a NWA record on the ground, with a I don't know, like the shoes from Back to the Future, you know, the Nike boots that Michael J. Fox wears in Back to the Future 2, with a BMX bike, with, you know, just like all the kind of most cliched things you can imagine stuck together in some, this is a kid's room from the 1980s. And you're like, well, it wasn't really like that. A lot of that stuff was kind of more in retrospect. You look back and go, oh yeah, those were the colors and that was this and that. That's kind of gives this feeling a little bit. And all that stuff does. And I'm not saying that I actually like the sound. I enjoy that sound, that kind of synthwave, vaporwave type sound. And that first song, Hyperlife, has that in spades. Like I said, it's very dreamy and ethereal, and it kind of has no drums, and his voice is kind of buried in this kind of reverb and echo, and it's very nice. And then we got Uneventful Days. Then Uneventful Days is a good song, kind of just like a good straightforward Beck type pop song, you know, with Beck's style on it. But like I said again, some of the production on it sounds too modern, and because of that, I feel it will age it eventually, if it hasn't already. You know, and Beck has always kind of been a pastiche of, you know, all sorts of stuff. Like every album would be different, like bits and pieces from the 60s and 70s, and funk and soul and folk and country. And you could kind of say, well, you know, he's always done that. But he did it in a way that I feel made it something new. And made it, like I said, rough around the edges, so that it wasn't locked into this place and time. Like a song like, I don't know, Rowboat, the song he wrote for Johnny Cash. You know, that sound, like he said when he wrote that, he said, I think someone asked him, maybe it was Rick Rubin, said, can you write a song for Johnny Cash? He's going to, you know, record an album of covers, or not covers, songs written by other kind of contemporary artists, like I think a Danzig song and a few other bits and pieces. And then he did all those other covers as well, like directly of like Nine Inch Nails and Depeche Mode. And so Beck wrote the song as a Johnny Cash song, but there's something kind of endearing about the simplicity of that song that kind of doesn't make it sound like a hackneyed facsimile, if you know what I mean. And then the same with the stuff like Devil's Haircut. I don't know how you would even define what they're. So is that taken from like R&B, maybe a little bit from like Motown type sounding records, or some funk as well, and kind of again put together in kind of a pastiche. But because it has this kind of rawness to it, and like I said, kind of like a roughness and his own kind of signature sound, it kind of doesn't fall into the trap of just being a direct copy, if you know what I mean. And I'm not really explaining how it would. But if he took that song "Uneventful Days," which has got like quite hooky, uneventful, his vocal melody quite hooky, but the little production flourishes that feature throughout just it make me feel like eventually you'd listen to that and feel this sounds just like everything else that came out around that time, production wise, around the kind of the late 2010s. Saw Lightning, that's okay. That kind of sounds more of a typical kind of Beck song. Die Waiting, I don't like that song. That's a song on the song that I'd say I legitimately don't like that song. Chemical and See-Through, they're decent. Hyperspace is like the Hyperspace and Hyperlife. They're kind of like partners. Like it's like the same song almost, but it's almost like a reprise or a remix. The reason why I love Hyperspace, it's the same vocal. It's exactly the same words and the basic, I guess, again, the melody or whatever you want to call it that's used, his vocal melody and the background tune. But he uses, there's drums and it's got kind of more energy and drive to it. And then there's a second verse, which is like, it's a guest spot by some rapper who I'd never heard of before. But he uses this drum beat in that song, Hyperspace. Hyperspace. And I love the sound of the snare. I don't know if it's like live drums or it's a sample. I'm not sure. But also I like the way it drives the song. It's boom, ba ba boom, ba ba boom, ba ba boom, ba ba the whole way through the song. So it's kind of like pushes the song. I can't explain these things well to kind of do it justice, but that's as best as I can. Okay. It doesn't say who guessed it on Hyperspace. Maybe it says back here in the... No, it doesn't say. It probably says over here somewhere. Oh, Terrell Hines. Terrell Hines. No, it's okay. It says that. So it says who producing. So Pharrell Williams did 1, 2, 3. And that's interesting. So the one that I thought that I disliked the most, that I thought maybe was Pharrell, wasn't even Pharrell Williams on production. Die Waiting is Beck and Cole MGN. Who's Cole MGN? Maybe he's another kind of modern famous producer. We've also got Greg Kirsten. He makes an appearance producing on See-Through. Stratosphere, which is the song after Hyperspace. I love that song as well. Very kind of beautiful. But again, it's almost like if just the drums, if they just changed the drum production. Like the synths and stuff used and the little, I can live with that. And some of them I really love, but it's the drums I think that I don't like. So yeah, Stratosphere is a great song. Dark Places, it's okay. I like Star. Everlasting Nothing, again, is kind of like almost a Beck type pop song. Chris Martin features on one of these songs. Which one? Listening to it, I didn't pick it up until I read about it later. Where does it say Chris Martin? He is on one of them. I can't even see his name now. Okay, well, I'm just gonna. I can't. Maybe I'll have a look on this one. I'm sure. Maybe I misread. Track listing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't Chris Martin. I'm sure I saw that. It said Chris Martin somewhere. Anyway, I'm reading what it says here. I'm trying to read this while not leaving It is Chris Martin. Guest vocalists for the album include Chris Martin, Sky Ferreira, I've heard that name before, Pharrell Williams, Terrell Hines, Alex Lee, and Roger Joseph Manning Jr. Where the hell is Chris Martin? It's going to drive me crazy now. Beck Hansen, Roger Manning, is it Carleth Martin, Sky Ferreira on track 4. Okay, that's the one I don't like. Sky Ferreira does vocals on Die Waiting. Here we are, 7. His name's not in bold, that's why I couldn't see it. Why, Beck, why didn't you put Chris Martin's name in bold? Sorry, that's not focusing in, is it? You guys are just seeing a whole bloody... Is it too small to focus on? Maybe I've got to turn the light on. Is that why it's not focusing? Is that better? Not really. Oh, there we go. See, 7, Chris Martin vocal. So which song's 7? Oh, Hyperspace. I definitely can't hear Chris Martin's vocals on that. That's my favourite song on this. So my favourite song on the album is Hyperspace, then Hyperlife, which, like I said, are basically the same song, and then Stratosphere. And then maybe I quite like Chemical as well. Other songs good. The only song I'd say I legitimately don't like would be Die Waiting. Saw Lightning, okay, which was the lead single apparently. Bit of a surprise on that. So when was this released? Oh, November. So yeah, I was right. November 22nd, 2019. So very late in 2019. So yeah, I don't know if I've talked about Beck before on this. I think I did a video on Midnight Vultures years ago. I've been a big fan of Beck since Loser. When I was a kid, I remember singing that and liking that song, liking the video. I loved Odelay when it came out. I bought Odelay on CD. I own a lot of his albums. Maybe one day I'll do a video on all the Beck albums I own. I own most of his discography, not the whole thing, not a lot of his earlier stuff that were put out like on like One Foot in the Grave and stuff like that. Cold Brain Stew, I think was one of them. They were put out on independent, very small independent labels and quite hard to come by. I don't know if they've been reissued subsequently, but I'm a big fan of Beck. I saw him in concert back in 1998 for the Odelay tour, and it was one of the best concerts I ever went to. I don't think he's ever toured here again since then. He's actually in Australia, or he was in Australia very recently, like in the last week or so. That was when he announced that tour. I'd hope he'd come over to New Zealand, but of course he didn't. I know a lot of people kind of think Beck is a boring, and I can kind of understand that. Some of his work, I'd say his work is patchy. He's not like kind of had an amazing discography from beginning to end, but he's got some great albums and some great songs, and I'll always give him a chance. When he releases something new, I always give it a listen just to kind of see. And, you know, I realize if I kind of give something like this, you know, usually you can tell, you think there's something there. And if you listen to it more, it kind of opens itself to you and you think, wow, that's a lot better than I initially thought. Yeah, there feels like there's other things I wanted to talk about with this album, but I was kind of all over the place. But that's okay. So we'll leave it there with the Beck Hyperspace put out on Capitol Records. I wonder if he's still on Capitol. And we'll leave it there for now. Thank you.